Dr. Harville, and I know a member Gay Noble had a question too.
Yes, I'm sorry.
You gotta get ready to go.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to leave soon, so I have to put the elephant in the room, as it relates to Cooley High School. And, I'm sorry, but I have to. I have to throw it out because remember I said that's where I really became Deborah, or a part of Deborah. And so I'm trying to wonder, when can we sell the property? Are we gonna start hearing major presentations about Cooley at a separate meeting? And I probably forgot the date if it's in the plan. Because at every board meeting, you're getting this feedback and rhetoric, and, so I just wanna know where exactly we're headed with that. I haven't been getting too many calls as of late, but I started getting them back in October. I said I needed to look at the plan. So I don't want us not to talk about it, because the more we talk about it, the more it'll get out there. So what was my question?
I don't know.
When can we sell it? That's one. I know I said that before, but when can we sell it?
Yes.
So we can move on with whatever's gonna happen to it, because it's in my spirit and my soul. I want to talk about that at some point, and I'm glad, all of you are still here to talk about it a bit. Some kind of feedback.
So I think the first thing is if we're gonna sell it, so that's the first question that and as people are, I know the feedback, the community engagement, the rallying, T-shirts, we all see all of
Oh, I
that.
haven't seen a T-shirt.
Yes, so we've seen all of that, but I think, the process that we have in place right now is, it is a recommendation in this plan. So the recommendation from the superintendent in this plan was to, sell Cooley. That was his recommendation. So as a board, we have to decide on if that is going to be something that we approve or not. And if we accept that recommendation to do that, then the next process would be a RFP. And so Dr. Vitti, you can flush the process out, but I just wanted to be clear because some people are automatically saying we're doing it, and we may. That may be the vote at the very end of all of this. And that's with anything, right? With the entire plan, there are some things that we are flushing out to say we like this, we don't like this. And I think that Cooley is one of those things that some people feel it definitely should be sold. Some board members and some other board members feel, I don't know, maybe. Can we repurpose it? Those are some of the questions that have come back to Dr. Vitti, I know, because they've come back to me from board members as well. So I think.
Madam Chair, if I might.
Yeah.
I know all of that. I get that part. I guess I'm stepping out on faith to try to find out who wants to and who does not want to, or when do we get to that? When is that process gonna happen? Because I just wanna know.
Yeah, it's
And
when we
so
vote
I
on
might
this.
be one, I know, but will we have any discussion on it about the benefits to the community, the benefits to students? That's number one. And just how you all feel. 'Cause
Yeah.
I don't really know how you feel, and I haven't
Oh, you
called
don't.
each one. I know how you.
Yeah.
I don't know. I haven't called everybody, so I was just saying, it's just a time when we would talk about it.
Yep, so that's the purpose of these meetings,
Okay.
to engage. That is one of the items that absolutely can be discussed in this conversation. Member May, you have a question or a comment? Oh, okay. So I think that is the purpose of the meetings, that we don't have a Cooley meeting. So there's no meeting specific just for Cooley, as people think that there is. Because if that's the case, we need a meeting about every recommendation in the plan. I know that's probably the most controversial one in some communities, but we have to be careful to make sure that we keep this as a comprehensive plan and discuss everything in the plan. But you're right, when would be after we take the vote, which right now, the timeline, if we stick with the timeline, is before the fall. So we're looking July, I think July, if we stick with the plan. Member May?
So Member Hunter Harville, I'm more than happy to articulate, you and I have not talked directly about this, but I'm more than happy to articulate my position, not just on Cooley, but on all the vacants. And so my position on our approach to vacant schools is one that is both rooted in the history of what we've done with our buildings in the district and and my understanding of what the future of Detroit is in terms of how our neighborhoods are going to develop and thrive. And we all know that when emergency manager and past administrations exited buildings, they just left them in neighborhoods. And you can literally map property values across Detroit and see the connection between a vacant, abandoned school and what the neighborhood values are. We don't even, I mean, anecdotally, we can sense that, but it's actually borne out in the data. And so, so first and foremost, I do think that I strongly believe that when we exit a school, we have an obligation to be clear to the surrounding community members, the homeowners in that area, what our vision is once we don't own that school anymore, and what we will and will not support, the circumstances under which we will entertain development, the circumstances under which we will require demolishing it, where we may have to partner with somebody. And I don't think that we've had that, we've not had that conversation as a board. And so to your point, I think we still have to kind of continue to talk through those things. But I'm sure all of us have a friend or relative that lives next to, around one of these dead schools. And I just think we are among the biggest property owners in the city, and we have an obligation to steward these things the right way. And I don't think that we have to be super reactionary because somebody shows up with a plan. I think there is a way to be really deliberate and say, like, there are probably multiple uses for a place like Cooley. We know of one or two now, but what kind of commitment are we willing to make to exploring the full range of what's possible at a site like Cooley, right? Is there a way to approach it that's going to create jobs? Is there a way to approach it that's going to create housing? Is there a way to approach it that's going to create space for organizations to thrive? And I think you can have that conversation about every one of our 20, or I should know this number, 22 vacant schools. So that's where I am at a high level. I also personally, and this is because of my professional background, I'm not particularly quick to sell things. I think, again, we're one of the largest landowners in the city. We may not need something today, but just like we probably should we should probably have a school in the North End, Virginia Park area. We don't have, at some point we had land there. And so, it's about thinking through where we might have to pivot. And Dr. Vitti has done some of that work, but I think we have to talk about it at the board level. And I just believe there's just power in holding on to property in an environment where there is some growth, there is some development that is that's happening. So that's kind of where I am at a high level. For the vacants, I'm just going to continue to push. I'm trying to be real consistent in this. I'm just going to try to push for. Alongside making the decision to sell or not to sell, we also should be making a decision of under what circumstances will we make something available, what parameters, and how we'll approach that, right? So will we look at something and say, you know what, we think that should be, I'm just making up an example, we think that should be senior housing because we know we have a lot of students in that area who are, with older caregivers who maybe don't have the most modern living arrangement. And maybe we could partner with somebody to create senior living in the area, and then we would be intentional about going out and finding those partners. That's one approach, right? Another approach is just to put it up on the website and let whoever shows up purchase it. I'm against that kind of lack of intentionality. So that's where I stand. For me, it's not personal, it's all strategic and all in understanding our both obligation and power as one of the largest property owners in the city and what we should be doing on behalf of Detroit taxpayers.
Okay, I respect that, and it's good to hear it. Good to hear more, so I can get a perspective.
So-
Or is that another meeting?
Member Gay Dagnovo, I think you have your hand raised.
For the conversation with Member Hunter Harville. 12 years, is a long time to just have a building that has gone through, continuous board ups, cleanups. And when I first started running for my House seat, I was out helping Nicole Pitts with cleanup at that site. I know the church across the street has to be tired of it. I'm tired of it, and it's not in my immediate proximity. I get what, and respect fully what Member Mays has shared, especially given her expertise. It does have to be a plan with intentionality. I know the value has, kind of fluctuated. We've had fires, you name it, but something needs to be done at some point. And I'm hopeful that we're not anxious when we're having the conversation about what needs to be done. I respect Member Hunter Harville also because she's an alumni. I know how I felt about Redford. And I think some deference has to be given in that regard, but intentionality is correct, and it should have a benefit to the overall community. But I'm hopeful that we can put some guidelines in place to clarify where the value, what formula is being used to determine what the current value is, what possible purchase or partnerships or et cetera could have community benefit, and I hope we're not going into year 13. I certainly don't think we should be holding it for another 12 years. So I'm hopeful that we can move forward with some reasonable plan that makes sense.
Thank you, Member Gay Degnovo. Vice President?
Yes, so in summarizing my thoughts, and thank you all for your feedback, I think when I spoke with Dr. Beatty, I think you might have mentioned it might cost about 80 million to renovate Cooley, right? Or somewhere.
I heard 50, I heard 80.
Yeah, so there was,
Okay, 50, 80.
Well, but that's the problem, it's too many different numbers.
But I'm just saying,
Right.
if you will, indulge with me for 1 minute. If it costs 50 to 80 million to renovate Cooley, and then if we're having a brand new Cody High School on the west side of Detroit, where Cooley is not that far from, I still continue to wonder, and so I guess I've poured my heart out today. I just feel that we need to make some decisions about either yes, we're going to sell it, or no. I also feel that if we come up with yes, we're going to sell it, I'm humbled to have the expertise of Sonia Mays on this board. I must have heard her name at least 3 or 4 times this week with all the great things that she's doing. So I respect that, and I respect what you're saying, Madam President. But again, having seen this eyesore for all these years, I just think it's time that we make a decision, and so I hope that we can give some considerable thought to that. Or I think we should have a meeting about Cooley, a study session where we could talk more about it. Just that building, because it's just been there too long. It brings tears to my eyes when I drive that community. And I was over there the other day at Coleman A. Young, reading. It's an eyesore.
It
and
is.
we need to do something else with it, whatever we do, okay? So,
Thank you. Thank you,
just for the
Cardinal
record.
alum. Cardinal alum.
yes, I am a Cooley Cardinal,
Thank you so
but I don't have a
much.
T-shirt.
That's, well, you gotta,
Look
I
for it.
think you gotta say you support
Can I
something.
All right,
Yeah,
thank you.
I just so, when we say different numbers, so, and again, you have to contextualize all the numbers, so it's not fair to say one thing or the other with numbers, because they come from different studies or different perspectives, so.
Okay.
So just so everyone's straight with the numbers that I have provided. So one number, when the district, agreed to include our vacant properties along with the city's vacant properties, school buildings, to determine what could be the best use of those properties, knowing the district level investments. And the question that was asked was, if it was reactivated as a school, how much it would cost? With complete modernization, all the inspection codes and all of that. So it was 80 million was the number they gave back to us. Now, anyone can argue that that is high. You know, you can rebuild Cooley as a school for less than that, but that was the number that came with that study. So that's one number that's been quoted. The other number, when I started as superintendent, one of my first thoughts was to reactivate Cooley High School as a teacher professional development center. And that's to fundraise that, to gain private dollars to reactivate the school. That was before the fires, the major fire. And so at that time, it was about $25 to $35 million to reactivate Cooley at that time before more damage happened, not with inflation and everything else. That number today is probably 50 million.
Wow.
And so those are the only two numbers that I've given either to the board or maybe at moments when someone has emailed me and, you know, what are your numbers? Those are the two numbers that I know. Now, there's other numbers that I've been hearing floating around that you can reactivate the building for a couple $1 million or $10 million. And I don't know, I can't verify those numbers. That's coming from outside, but I just want to clarify to the board and anyone listening, those are the numbers that I've been given or that I know that I've shared with the board or the community.